recording. Pull open this. And I think we are all good. Buzz. Welcome, everybody, to my third Game Dev Daily. Numero 3. Right, we got 3 big ones. Now, I'm still messing around with my layout and stuff a bit, just deciding where I want to put things. I think I'm going to have MS Paint up on this monitor. Just probably going to look a little weird. Oh, maybe I put it over on that one then. Actually, yeah, okay, I changed my mind. I'll put it on this one. Just means that I'm going to be facing completely away from the webcam when I'm doing it, but that's fine. We're fine with that. Okay, so I have been tinkering around the last half hour just with my stream set up and stuff. So I have some funky new layouts. We've kind of updated the regular Game Dev Daily layout a little bit, so it looks a little nicer, I think. I've, updated this MS Paint window and whatnot. Probably don't need to be going into this on the stream. That's all good. I don't mind. Learn some things, so that's cool. I've already learned some things before I even started doing the daily. Although to be fair, today's daily is probably not going to be any learning on my part, I don't think. I'm kind of just going to mechanic dump into MS Paint is my plan. Of kind of stuff that I want to put in the game. More or less. So, this is probably going to be the most interesting daily thus far. I think the last 2 were very dry and didn't really go over a whole lot. So this one will be a bit more interesting. Also, jump scare. Full screen camera scene as well. Wowie. The technology is incredible. You can see that my camera is not the best. It's not great. I feel like I have watched videos from the 2010s that have had better camera quality than this. Gets the job done, but when I blow it up this big, full screen size, I'm yeah, it doesn't look fantastic. But hey, it is much better than the one I had previously, I'll tell you that much. The one I had before this was from the early 2000s, and that one was shocking. Alright, so I've got to kind of reposition myself a little bit. Game Dev Daily number 3. We're gonna go over some things. Now, there's got to be a way for me to just... I guess I can just this. And then that. And then... that'll work. Probably a faster way to do that. I could have control Z'd everything. That was probably easier. Anyway, I'm learning as I go. We're gonna get better at using MS Paint as we use it. All right. I actually wanted to test one other thing, just while we're on this. So, for example, if I were to write something in here, let's make a red smiley face. He's so happy. Actually, I changed my mind. I don't want to use red. I want to use yellow. Wow. And then, if I grab this smiley face and I pull it, what I'm expecting is going to happen is it's going to become white, which it does. However, I think if I set this to be black, it doesn't do that. Well, this does the eraser, I think. No? What do they use the secondary color for? Oh, I can right-click with the eraser. I wonder if I can, no. That's annoying. I want to be able to drag it and have it still be black underneath. Because it defaults to white because that's the base color of the page. There's almost certainly a way to do this. And I'm not gonna sit on it for too long. How come? Oh, that's interesting. 1 second. I'm gonna give it a quick look and just see if I can find it in like properties or anything. You know what I can do? Remove objects with generative arrays. And then it didn't tell me how to actually do that. Okay, I figured out what I can do though. I can add a layer. Oh, and the layer ruins my layout. I can't believe this. Oh my god, that's so annoying. But is the layer gonna work? Okay, hold on. Let me test to see if the layer works though. So if I were to theoretically on this layer, not make it all yellow, I want to make it all black. Change this back to white. And then I were to highlight this and move it. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer now. It works. Oh my god. Am I going to fix my layout for this now? Alright, yes. I think I am, because it's going to look way better. Yeah, let's commit to the bit, I think. Deciding where I want to crop it. Okay, we're doing quick adjustments on the fly. Bear with me, peoples. I need to resize this canvas a little bit. Let's go like... Okay, I don't know how I did that, but that's not what I wanted at all. Oh, interesting. That's not bad, actually. I kind of like this size. 16 by 8. And then... Hold on, I'm still messing around with stuff. Bear with me, people. What am I trying to do? Give me like, let me do this. I mean, this looks fine. Yeah, okay, I think we're good. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like that, and I'm gonna quickly, really quickly, I'm just gonna crop this scene. We will do this on the fly. Definitely should have finished this beforehand. Let's go like... like that, maybe. Live cropping, exciting stuff. And you know that I'm not removing this from the VOD because editing. I don't have time to edit. I ain't got time for that. And lastly, I'll just do this and then we're done. And then we're done. I promise we're done and we'll actually start. I hope no one's actually watching this because God knows it's not anything interesting right now. Alright, I think I'm happy with that. Okay. And then this will fix all my problems. Hip hip hooray. If I click new and don't save, it'll do that, which is fine. And then we will just, after flashbanging everyone, we'll do this, and we are here. We're here. We're finished. I'm ready to start. I guess I'll just make this the full screen. That's the last thing I'll do. Okay, lovely. Alright, welcome everyone to GDD number 3. Let's go over some stuff. Now, okay, I'm gonna go over... For my game, I basically have... Alright, how are we gonna show this? So, it's a game around, you know, being a mage and casting spells. Now, kind of the way that I have this set up... and let's think, off the top of my head, You know what? I actually have a diagram that I should just refer to. I'm going to pull it up really fast. A diagram, he says. I have before spun this up in MS Paint. A long, long time ago. So let me just take a look at it. It's here. Yeah, this is what it looks like. I can pull that open real fast. Okay, so we kind of have a thing that looks like this. And I might put it off to like the side or something, and I'm gonna make. Yeah, let's go. So it's gonna look something like this. 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 This is gonna be like the shittest pentagon you've ever seen, but that's fine. This and this. Now, in Mage, the game runs off a very, very, very simplistic element system. I don't know. You've seen Avatar. You've seen like any number of like these kinds of things, right? So I mean, I guess in the essence of Avatar, I'm using very similar elements to what they use. So we have fire, earth, water, air, and then the one additional element that I use in my game as well is electricity. Electric, lightning, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Element pending. That one hasn't really been decided on yet. Now, the idea is that every spell in the game, more or less, belongs to one of these 5 elements. And each element has 3 different spells that belongs to it. Now, if I could draw this a little better, and in fact, I might we can do some editing magic to kind of show how this is gonna eventually look, I hope. So it's gonna kind of look something like this. So my initial plan is for this game to basically have 3 spells per element. So it'll look something a little like this, but hopefully, you know, like less garbage if I made it properly. This is gonna look like the worst Eldritch abomination you've ever seen. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm trying my best. Okay. Look at me. Doing MS Paint stuff. Alright. So it looks something like this. And then there's also an additional thing where I kind of have midway points as well. So for example, there's like a midway fire and earth, and then there's one of those for each of the spells, right? And so each one of these circles, more or less, is supposed to represent a different spell that the player is able to learn over the course of the game. And you start out... Actually, you start out with... and I've already used white, so I'm going to have to use a different color. Let's use green. You start out with like this one in the middle, and the one in the middle is just your I'm not gonna use green, I use purple. Is your shitty Mega Man pea shooter. So a little pew 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 is like your one starting spell because you're like some basic bitch ass mage that's like fresh out of Hogwarts. I kind of hate the spacing on all this, but that's fine. I, as you can tell, am not an artist. But I'm doing my best, god damn it. Okay, we're basically done. We're done. I'm happy enough with this. It's good enough. And then the last thing I do is like everything is like linked. So I will link everything really fast. But this is kind of basically what you're looking at here, more or less, is like the game's skill tree, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. But you kind of pick up skills in Metroidvania style. You're supposed to pick them up in like an intended order, but I want it to be pretty non-linear. There we go. I've made it. Oh, I guess the last thing is I need these ones. Bing, bing. I kind of hate that I've used purple, but I've already used the white for the air. Okay. And so each one of these nodes, as well as the purple in the middle, is supposed to represent one spell. And as I was saying, this one right in the middle here. Oh, I hate this green. I'll use the darker green. This one right here is your little pea shooter guy. And if I hop over to the game real fast, I can even demo this. Because I have this. It's just the... Oh! You know what? I can't. Because, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open it. I'm going to open it because I want to be able to demo it. So give me 2 seconds to pull it open. And I need to put this somewhere as well. Let's put this over here. Hey, and you can still see, I need to quickly resize this, but you can still see we have the MS Paint down here as well. Okay, I just want to... Why can't I see the code? Oh, it does this thing. I don't know why it does this. Or it makes me select a new one. Anyway, I kind of don't actually have to show the code here, but I'm going to just temporarily. So I wanted to put the pea shooter back. So this one right here is the one I want to assign. So yeah, if we could get rid of the fireball and put the pea shooter in. Okay. So this is our basic Mega Man pew 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 spell. This is spell number 1. It goes pew 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 pew. And that's the spell that I want the player to begin the game with. And that's about it. In the same way that like Mega Man would start, right? Like Mega Man, over the course of you playing the game, you like unlock the other abilities and you can use them. But you just start out with your shitty pea shooter. You get your little pea shooter. You can jump around. Probably not this high later, but that's fine. I'll work on that. You can jump around, and you have this little pew 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 pew, and that's about it. That is the game. To begin with. Now, as the game progresses in typical Metroidvania fashion, I want the player to come along and unlock additional abilities and spells. And the way this happens is you like find like elemental essence or some shit. Elemental essence pending. In order to like fill this out. So let's hop back to oh my god, this is I'm working on it. We're getting there. Here we are. Okay. So like you're playing through the game and yada yada yada, you beat some like mini boss or whatever, and then you pick up some like elemental, like you pick up the water essence. Like spoiler, the water essence is the one I want to give out to the player first. Then this little thing on their skill tree is going to like fill up and be like, yo, you have unlocked this spell, the first water spell, because the first one along this line of order. Now, the water spell, I mean, this one is like very straightforward. It is just my guy, which, what color are we going to draw our guy in? We can use green. So I have my dude, and he's a happy guy. And when he gets the water, he can do the whoosh 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 and get plus health. Oh my god, he's doing it. He's healing. So the first spell that the player is going to unlock, the first water spell, is the self-heal, right? And prior to this point of the game, you just can't. There's just no way to self-heal. Now, I intend to make it so that before the player actually unlocks this, the game is going to be relatively not that challenging. And also, you shouldn't be punished that much for dying, basically. And the punishment for dying should be pretty minimal. I think it's going to be pretty minimal in general as I'm building the game, but especially at the start when you don't even have the ability to heal to begin with, it's probably going to be even less punishing than it would be past that point, like once you gain that ability to heal. Because, yeah, it kind of sucks, right? Like at the beginning of the game, I can't heal, but the point is that you're basically given this ability, like, super early on. So it's, like, not a big deal. And then if the player was frustrated, hopefully they're like, oh, okay, the devs, the dev, singular, gave me a little heal. Gave me the ability to restore my HP, because you can't get it back from, like, killing enemies or whatever. Now, as far as, like, linearly how I intend to deliver the spells, that is kind of about it. It is worth noting that, like, you'll pick up a water essence and it will unlock the first water spell. And then when you pick up another water essence, it'll unlock the second water spell. So you can't, like, jump from, like, this one to the third one. Like, you have to unlock the second and then unlock the third. But past picking up the first heal ability, I kind of want to make the game non-linear enough that you can pick up these essences in pretty much any order, more or less. I don't really want them to be gated. Well, to an extent. I guess there would, like, of course there's going to be, like, an intended order of, like, yeah, this is probably the way that I intend for the player to progress through the game, but you should be able to do things, like, somewhat out of order. But several of these abilities are going to be tied into allowing you to progress further through the game, a la Metroidvania, very typical Metroidvania style. The easiest ones to be able to demonstrate that, which I guess I'll go over next, are going to be the air spells. The air spells, the idea of every single one of them is that they're basically all movement based. Now, one of them I have already demoed in the game already. In fact, I've demoed both of them in the game already, which I can show them off really quick. Let me just update this. Go back into here. Let's close the code. In fact, you know what? I don't even need to have the code open at all. Let me just turn it off. Okay, so we have a dash ability, like so. This is air ability number 1. Pretty standard. People, especially in platformers, especially speedrunners, because that's more or less my background. Big fan of speedrunning, specifically 2D platformers and Metroidvanias on top of that. Everyone loves the dash ability. Going fast is always better. In Mage, it's kind of a little more interesting than in most games in the sense that every single ability, movement, attack, whatever, they all consume your, like, mana resource. So I can't spam dashes literally indefinitely. And also, after I've dashed too much and I've exhausted my mana, I'm not going to have that much mana left over to cast other spells. So there's a bit more of a resource management focus, or emphasis, I guess, in this game. And I haven't really fleshed this out a whole lot. It's possible that I think very likely I would end up reducing the mana cost of the movement spells and make them relatively cheap so that you can, for the most part, spam them outside of, like, combat, right? Like, in combat, I would expect that dashing is going to cost you resource that you may need to hold on to. Another thing that I've currently done is just you are always regenning mana if you're missing mana, but it's possible that in the future I may want to make the player wait a short amount of time before the mana actually starts to regen, like after they've cast the spell. Those are all things I can tinker around with later and just see what feels good to play with. And, like, it kind of comes down to, like, how much power do you want to give the player? Which ties into the difficulty of the game, right? Like, of course, you could make it like have like a huge delay, and it's just gonna make it harder for the player to, and like really emphasize the fact that they've got to be a lot more conservative and think about how they want to use the mana. But is that actually fun for most people? Maybe not, right? And like 5 seconds might be way too long. Maybe like a 1 second delay is good. Like that's like a healthy amount where it adds a little bit of difficulty, and then like, okay, I can't just spam everything all the time. But most people aren't gonna be like, oh my god, I can't do anything either, right? Like there's a healthy balance, yeah? Obviously you wouldn't want to put like a 20-second delay on it because that would be dumb. And on the other hand, making there be no delay like I currently have might be just too lax, I guess, for lack of a better word. Now, that is the player's first air ability, as mentioned, is the dash, and it just allows them to go zip in one direction. You get movement locked. So very much currently, the current iteration of the dash is more or less identical to how Hollow Knight has it set up, in that it locks your vertical height, and you just get set on a very static horizontal speed until the end of the dash, and then you're allowed to resume whatever. And while you're mid dash, you can't like cancel out of your dash or anything. The exception to that would be like if the player gets hit, right? But I have not gotten to the point where we've even got enemies that can hit us, so that's not really a concern that I've really touched on at the moment. Now, the second movement ability, the second air ability, is the big jump. The woof, the whoosh. And that one's I've also demoed before. It sends us right off screen, as you can see. Now, this one requires a little bit of channeling. So you have to hold down the jump button, or the super jump button, for I think it's like a full second actually. Might be a little less. Might be like half a second. And then at the end of the channel, you're just sent catapulting upwards. Now, for both of these abilities, they allow you to do things that you otherwise would not be able to very obviously, right? So the dash allows me to jump way further. Like I can go way, like I can pretty much jump from one side of this platform to the other without touching the ground, right? Whereas if I just jump, I don't get anywhere near that far. So it lets you cross gaps that you wouldn't be able to cross otherwise. It's possible that like you'd have to jump up really high and then like dash through something, or there's ways you can use the dash to allow the player to like unlock additional areas, more or less. It's pretty straightforward. You see this in tons and tons of Metroidvanias, having a dash ability. Now the big jump, also pretty clear. It just lets you jump higher. So if there's ledges that are higher than than this, then I could do the big jump and I could jump up to them, right? Like with the regular jump, I can jump about this high, but with the big jump, I can jump off screen, as we can see. So those are both like very obvious. Okay, that's how they're gonna tie into progression from like a Metroidvania point of view, and that's how I want them to allow the player to unlock more areas. So they would be spread like pretty evenly throughout the game. I feel like I'd probably make it so the dash is one of the earliest things you're intended to get access to. Maybe not the next thing after the heal, but like it would be within the first like 3 or 4 spells. I would expect the player to get access to it. My camera is hella frozen, and I don't know when that happened. Well, I hope it hasn't been like that for ages. Let me see if I can fix it. 1 second. It's a really flattering freeze frame as well. One moment. Uno momento. Can I refresh it? Oh no. What the hell's happened here? I actually have no idea how this has happened. I don't even have the option to update the properties on this. Oh, that's really weird. Okay, it's because it's from here. Just a second, people. Hold. Hold. I'd love to know why my camera shit the bed. But it's not obvious to me, unfortunately. I can't even get it to show in other scenes either. Let's pull up a bingo scene. It's bingo! Even in the bingo, I don't have it. Huh? 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 Well, this is really annoying. What's something I can try? Let me see if I can open the camera elsewhere. My camera's just like dead. Windows is trying to help me with the camera. It's like, yo, do you need assistance with your camera? I think it's shit a brick. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. There's probably an easy way for me to restart it without having to unplug it, replug it. I'm currently letting Windows give it a try. Oh, actually, you know what? That's obviously not going to work because it's using the wrong camera here. Camera settings. Open camera system settings. Yeah, it's like lost the camera. How does that even happen, man? Alright, 1 second, people. And I think we're back. Hopefully. I hope we're back. I'm not back here, but that's fine. I'm fixing it. I close that. And then let me just do this. I don't know. My camera shit the bed. I think it's because I've been messing around with OBS. But that's cool. That was a nice waste of 5 minutes. This is good. Okay. If I was way more organized, this would have been a great GDD. But that's fine. We're working on it. This is like the technical difficulties GDD. We're working through it. Now, okay. So, as I was saying, both the dash and the big jump have very obvious implications for how they allow the player to unlock additional areas, traverse through obstacles that they were previously unable to. So when you pick up the dash ability, you're all of a sudden going to have access to areas you couldn't get to before, and in those areas you can find more abilities that give you more stuff. Yada yada. If you've played any Metroidvania before, you kind of already know how all this stuff works. It's not difficult. Or it's not complicated, is what I should say. Now, there's the dash, there's the jump, and you're probably sitting here like, Snowy, I get that. What is the third one? Now, the third one, I haven't coded. And honestly, I don't think I even really decided on what exactly I wanted this spell to be. Like, there's a bunch of things that you could make. It's like, where do you go, right? Like, kind of the idea with this, like, skill progression tree thing is that with each tier of, like, essence you get for one particular type, the spell is meant to get, like, more grandiose, I guess. Like, the cost of the spell should go up and it should be, like, more flashy. So the dash is, like, super low cost. And the jump has, like, a bit more of a cost and has, like, a charge time. And then the third air spell, you're like, well, what the hell's this supposed to be? And my initial thought for the third air spell was just like, well, what if you just gave the player, like, full-on flight? I think is something that would be pretty good. You could also have it be a double jump is another option. And you just get, like, it's technically not infinite height, but it's like, okay, well, you can jump with as much mana as you have. I mean, you could, like, lock it, but I think I wouldn't. I would make it, like, full-on screw attack from Super Metroid, where, like, you basically get infinite height if you want it. Not space jump. Space jump's what I meant, but anyway. So there's that. Like, those are definitely options. I could float those. I haven't really locked down on, like, what exactly I want the third air spell to be, but no matter what it is, it definitely needs to allow the user to access something that they couldn't otherwise. Like, I don't want every single spell to be required as, like, a progression tool. That's not something I'm really looking to do, but for the air spells, it definitely is. Yo, what's up, Scott? How you doing? Thank you. I'm actually not doing any unitying today. Well, not much. Basically no unitying. I'm just talking about game design stuff. Now, that's it for the air spells. We've gone over these, which I'll just mark off what we've already done. We've done the pea shooter. I've talked about the heal spell. I guess we can keep going up the water spells. These might be my least defined ones. I'm trying to remember if I had something I really liked for either of these. I think the third one I would really want to be like some kind of like tsunami or wave or something like that. I guess another thing that's worth mentioning is that these spells down here are supposed to be, the water and the earth spells are meant to be defense focused spells. If I could actually draw a shield instead of sucking. Deciding how I want to do this. I'm spending too much time on this. It really doesn't matter. So I want these spells to be defense focused, whereas I want these spells to be offense focused, right? And then the airs, like, so this is the lightning and the fire spells. They're going to be offense focused. The water and the earth spells are defense focused. And then this stuff up here is speed. It's speed focused. And I've done the worst shoe known to man. I wish I could draw. But yeah, I mean, you get the point, right? There you go. So as the speed one. So basically, all the water, I don't really like want the water spells to do damage, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Now, we do have these spells in the middle here. And I guess the really interesting one is this one, right? Because it's like, okay, well, it's meant to be a defensive spell that also has offensive properties. But we've also got these ones, where I want, you know, an offensive spell with movement and a defensive spell with movement. I actually do have very clear ideas what both of these spells are going to be, which I'll get to in a moment. But going back to the water spells, the third spell is probably just going to be some like massive fuck off wave. You know, like this, and it just like knocks away. It just knocks away all the guys, and then they're like ah. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. But you know, it'd be like a knockback spell. Would maybe make it do like a little bit of damage, but more likely it would like apply a debuff, right? Like a slow debuff or something. Maybe stun them for a bit. I think stunning is more of an earth spell type thing. But yeah, it could definitely like slow them. Is something I'd expect to see. So that's probably what I want to get like the big water spell to do. And it's something we can code reasonably easily as well. So I would definitely... This is like a spell I could definitely look to code like in the next few weeks. If I felt like it. For the middle water spell, pretty undecided. I mean, okay, so like the first one, the base water spell is just a heal. And the third water spell is just a big piss off wave. The middle one does something. I think I'd make it like some kind of like water bubble, maybe like a shield. That perhaps like blocks some amount of projectiles. I think is like a pretty basic thing you could do. And you can like move around with it as well. Yeah, I think some kind of like shield would be a nice like intermediary spell. You have your heal, you have your shield, and you have your like CC basically. So that's kind of where I'm at with those. The only one that I'm dead set on is the heal, which I've already coded up to some extent. These two spells are absolutely pending and maybe changed in the future. I mean, I guess everything here could potentially be changed, but in terms of like what I'm particularly happy with, it's mainly just the heal. The other two are like, I'm just throwing ideas out already. Now, the base earth spell we've already seen. Oh, I guess another thing I'll mention, none of these water spells I really anticipate would have implications on like progression, with the exception of maybe the actually I guess the water barrier I could definitely see using this to like progress through like a volcanic area where you're basically getting like burned for standing in it, and I would absolutely just my preference to handle these kind of areas, like a hot temperature area where you take damage for being in it, I would 100% go the same route that Super Metroid takes, where these areas are technically traversable, you're just on a time limit. Like, you're just taking heat damage while you're in it. And so the intended way to proceed through these areas is to, of course, use the water barrier and insulate yourself from the heat and prevent yourself from taking damage. But there's not really going to be anything stopping you from just speed running through one of these heat areas before the heat kills you. And like at that point, it'll come down to like, okay, well, how much health do I have? How many health pickups have I grabbed? Because that's how much heat I can take and how long I can stay in the rooms for. So that's very like if you've played Super Metroid, you probably haven't dealt with this at all. If you've played Super Metroid Randomizer, however, you probably have. Because there's definitely a lot of areas in Super Metroid Randomizer in Norfair. Yeah, Norfair. Prince Star? No, yeah, Norfair. Yeah, there's several areas in Norfair where you can proceed through them without having the Varia suit. Just by being fast and not taking too much damage. Even though you're taking a shit ton of damage from heat. So that's like the heal. I definitely wouldn't expect this to be used as a progression tool. I mean, technically, maybe you could use it in the same essence as this. to like proceed through a high heat area. And then if this ended up being like a tsunami or something, I could see it like being able to douse fires potentially that just prevent you from proceeding through an area because there's like some big ass fires in the way and you literally can't go through them until you put them out with the huge piss off wave. Cool. All right. We're going to go to the earth spells next. So the rest of the defensive spells. Now, the first one is already in the game, and I can show you real quick. It's this one right here. It's the boom, there's a wall. This is a spell that I think is super cool. I think it doesn't have that much practical application in the game, unfortunately. Like, in terms of using this in combat, would you actually ever spend the time to be like, boom, there's a wall there now? I don't know. So, the thing with the wall is, the idea is that it can block any projectiles that are coming your way. And I think it'd be super cool to have fights where there's some boss that just shoots a giant-ass laser beam, and the only way to block it is to put the wall up, and the wall just tanks the laser beam. Like, that's kind of neat, right? So, like, using it as a method to dodge projectiles, yeah, that's one thing. And then also using it as a way to, I guess, just block off enemies. But that seems less of a, like, would anyone actually use it for that? Maybe they would, I don't know. What I find really cool about the wall spell is you can use it, it's kind of got the hidden additional mechanic in the sense that you can jump on it. You can jump on the wall, and then you can jump off the wall, and you're basically getting a wall's worth of height. And so it is an additional tool in addition to the big jump, the Air 2 spell, that allows you to get more height than usual. Now, I would probably make it that the big jump still gives you more height than jumping on the wall and jumping off the wall, so that you kind of have, like, levels. But the idea is that there's probably going to be, like, cliffs that you are intended to scale with the big jump, but you're also able to scale by spitting a wall up and then jumping off the wall. And so it's kind of like two abilities that allow you to proceed past an obstacle. What about the ability to send the wall forward as a projectile attack? Yeah, I'm hesitant to make spells that are like two-part spells. Like, I kind of want it to be all in the one key press. It does one thing, and that's it. There's some exceptions, which I might go about, or, like, I can discuss real quick. So, like, one thing that I've floated the idea for, like, for the tier 3 air spell, for example, is that what if you just gave the player the ability of just full-on flight? And so the button then becomes like a toggle, more or less. Like, you turn flight on, you turn flight off. So there's, like, kind of ways that I have thought about using the spells. But my current design philosophy is I just want there to be one button that does the thing. And that's it. If I re-press the button, I'm just recasting the spell again. Not to say that, like, something like that is completely out of the question. But again, the earth spells and the water spells are primarily meant to be defensive. So I don't really have an intention to use the wall as an offensive ability. Like, you can spit the wall up, and then you can pew 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 them. And I will get a whole bunch of null reference exceptions because I haven't fixed that yet. But yeah, my intention with the wall is it's just a way to, like, block projectiles, and also as a hidden bonus, you can use it to gain a little extra height to proceed through areas. So that's what I want to use. Why does the chat message show up here, but not in the other one? Also, does it go away? One second. Let me take a look. Because I can see it. Oh, it did go away. Okay, I don't know how long it was there for. I think that means that this one's not working. Although I don't see why that would be the case, but okay. Anyway, good to see the chat box worked here. That's cool. I should make the text a bit smaller, I guess. That's the only other thing. Okay, anyway, I'm getting off topic. So, all right. Earth 1, big fuck off wall. And then ping, ping, ping. It deflects projectiles. Wow. And I'm happy because I'm behind the wall. Hooray. Hooray. All right. Now I have to remember, did I have anything? Okay, I know that I was very undecided on this one. The third Earth spell. I've kind of floated around a bunch of different things. But I think right now, again, going by the further you go along, the more flashier the spell should be. I'm kind of seeing the third one as like a huge, like a pretty big, significant channel time that does some like big earthquake, basically. Like you just shake, the screen shakes, and any groundborn enemies are just knocked off their feet and stunned. But like it requires you to channel the spell for like 2 seconds or something, and it costs like a fair bit amount. Like it costs like half your mana pool or something to cast. So I think like that's like a very potential usage for the earthquake. And then you could use this kind of thing as a progression tool as well. In the sense of like I have to like damage something that's like behind a wall that I can't get past. Like I'm here and there's this wall here and there's this thing that I need to hit over here, and if I use the earthquake, it like activates this or whatever. You know, there's like stuff like that I would consider. So there's ways to use that. And then for the middle spell, did I have a... I can't think of anything off the top of my head. No, I probably have to come back to it. I don't think I have a good idea for this. Alright, so we've seen the fireball. I have the fireball attack where you like lob the fireball. That is, I have that noted as the first fire ability. So it's kind of like a delayed projectile. So you press the button, it doesn't lock you in place, so you can keep moving around while you're channeling the fireball. But you press your fireball button, and then after like a 0.5 second delay, your character lobs it in whatever direction you're holding down, basically. Now, the fireball is kind of meant to be an alternative to the pea shooter that you start with, in the sense that the pea shooter is like really fast and cheap, but doesn't do much damage. So the fireball is more of like a slower, kind of like mortar-y type weapon that explodes, does a bunch of AoE damage, and also burns. So it's like, it's harder to hit, costs a bit more mana, it's a lot slower than the pea shooter, but as long as you land it, it's going to do way more damage. And there's a whole host of things you can do with burning stuff as a progression tool. Like, absolutely. What's up, Potato? How you doing? Yeah, I mean, I can float my ideas, because absolutely one of the, like, 100% one of the things that I want to put in this game is I want to make it that there is an option in the options menu to just randomize your file. Like, I want randomizer to just be built into the game, basically. Like, I shouldn't have to have the community build a randomizer. That's like a number one thing I want to put in. And that way, it's like whenever you pick up any collectible whatsoever, I could randomly get like the second lightning spell or like the third earth spell. Like, that's cool, right? Okay, I don't know what I just did, but let me undo that. Okay, so first fire spell would be, yeah, you're like lobbing a fireball or something. The third one that I want which I've already got as well. I've shown this one off a fair bit because this is like one of the ones I'm happier with. One of the coolest spells that I actually coded into the game is the flamethrower, which is like kind of nice. It's just requires you to channel for like a second, and then you just shoot out like a massive geyser of flames that you can kind of aim a little bit. I don't want to make it like super easy to like spin around and aim it because it's meant to be like a powerful spell. It's like difficult to control, but you should be able to like aim it a little bit as you're shooting it. And the big thing with the flamethrower, it has like actually it doesn't have an initial cost. It just drains your mana really fast. Like it's pretty expensive to use. So that's the third fire spell. And then the second one, I mean, there's like lots of options I could use for the second thing. You do like some kind of like fire geyser. You could shoot like I don't know. There's like lots and lots of ways you can invent like a fire spell that is the intermediary between fireball and giant ass flamethrower. Like, yeah. I'm definitely going to think on this one a bit longer. So the final element is the lightning element, and this one, okay, the first and the third I know absolutely for certain, which is kind of a trend with a lot of these. Like I already know the first and the third, and the middle one's the one I'm kind of unsure on. The first one I already have coded, and I don't know if I have it on a key right now. I think I don't. So give me 2 seconds and I'll put it on a key. I've already shown it actually in previous dailies. But it is the chain lightning attack, which is a pretty like classic lightning spell. And it's another like, like not super flashy. I definitely drew inspiration from this one from like Zeus from Dota. Like just the chain lightning spell from that game. But the chain lightning's been done like a million times in different games. Like, is what it is. So you fire your like little chain lightning thing, and then when it hits an enemy, it bounces between all the other enemies nearby. Yeah. And it's pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but doesn't cost a lot of mana either. The way you can rack up a lot of damage with this spell is obviously if there's a bunch of small enemies together, you can chain all between them all, and it, no individual tick does a lot, but accumulatively it can do like way more than the fire spell would. Now, the thing is with the chain lightning, or I guess like all the lightning spells in general, as opposed to the fire spells, like what distinguishes them is the lightning spells are supposed to be a lot faster. Like they execute way faster, and also they're a bit cheaper on the mana side. But as a result, they do a little less damage overall, as opposed to the fire spells. Now, the third lightning spell, like I said, I'm absolutely certain I know what I want for this. Your player's just gonna stand here and channel. It's like another high channel time spell. Undecided how long I would want it to be. Probably a decent while. And then after the time is up, you lightning bolt. It's just this massive ass lightning bolt, and it has like a pretty. I think I'd make it similar to the wall in that you can kind of aim it as you're channeling it, and then as soon as the channel time resolves, it just boom, lightning strikes. And I would maybe make it like limited to you could only use it like you couldn't use it underground, for example. Maybe you might have to have access to the sky or like some limiting factors, but it's gonna be this extremely high damage single target DPS spell that uses a shit ton of mana and takes a while to charge up. So I guess that's like another. Actually, I was gonna say that's another theme of the fire spells. They're all AoE. But I guess literally the base electric spell would be the chain lightning, which is also AoE anyway. But I think the AoE is more the fire thing than the electric thing, regardless. I mean, technically the lightning bolt would be AoE as well. It's just a very narrow box, right? Like it's only hitting like a very small space in front of you. But yeah, That'd be the third lightning spell. And then, did I have anything? I don't know. I don't know if I had anything I liked for this. I don't really want to do melee spells. I think as a mage, I kind of want to embody that, like, traditional, like, I'm a frail, ranged caster. I'm not really meant for melee combat. So I don't think I'd do anything like a taser. Like a close range taser, but maybe I would. That's something I could consider, honestly. Like, just a short range, like, stun attack. I don't know. Again, something to think on this one especially. A lot of the tier 2 spells not super decided on and might float some additional ideas later. Now, the only circles I haven't gone over at this point are these, like, combined ones in the middle. Now, the idea would be that, like, once you unlock, like, the tier 2 air spell and the tier 2 water spell, you also, by proxy, unlock the tier 2, like, the combined spell. And I think I have reasonably good idea of what I want to do for every single one of these. Because these are the most unique and well-defined spells. Probably the ones that I've really thought about the most. I'll leave the air spells for last because they're the ones that I like the most. Probably the least defined is the fire earth one. I know that I definitely want this to be some kind of lava spell. I think that's like a super obvious way to take, like, fire and earth being combined. For good reason, right? Like, magma is kind of the result of those elements being put together. So I would definitely want this spell to be something in that zone. And I was thinking probably it'd just be like, you just make the floor magma. In fact, I should be using red for this, like, let's be honest. Like, you just make the floor in front of you, you just shit down this, like, trail of lava. And the idea is that it's a defensive spell because obviously if people walk on lava, they take a shit ton of damage. This is also a defensive spell because it prevents, like, grounded enemies from approaching you, right? Because they have to walk through the lava, which is probably not great. So that's, like, the crossover. That's supposed to be the crossover between the offensive fire spell and the defensive earth spell. Now, the next one, the earth and water spell, is meant to be the, like, pinnacle defense spell. This one is also pretty straightforward. I want to just basically summon a dome. Like, you put yourself in a dome, and then in the dome, you're just getting healed. And so it's kind of like a really high mana cost channel spell that makes you more or less indestructible, and also heals you while you're doing it. And yeah, so it requires you to channel. You obviously can't move, but you're indestructible and you heal, and it drains your mana, like, really, really fast. So the idea would be that, like, you can basically use it as, like, a parry ability, but you wouldn't be able to spam it because the cost is really high. And if you're using this a ton, you're not going to be able to attack because you just won't have mana to attack. But that's the idea for the Water Earth spell. For the Fire Lightning spell, I imagine this. Something like this, which I think would be sick, is just this gigantic, like, imagine you're Zeus, and you're gonna throw this huge, like, lightning bolt wreathed in fire, and you channel this thing up, and then you just throw it. And you basically throw it like a missile, and it collides with something, and it explodes, and does, like, a bunch of fire damage or whatever. I think my name for, like, the working name I'd go under this would be Javelin. Like, you're just conjuring, like, this huge, like, lightning fire javelin, and then you huck it, and it shoots out like it's like super fast projectile and just go. So that's what I want for that. And then maybe like, okay, if I did this, maybe this is a little too similar to the lightning bolt as well. Because the lightning bolt's another like high mana cost, high damage, long charge time spell. So maybe this one I'm like the javelin I'm super set on making that the spell. So maybe I would tinker around with doing something different for the lightning bolt instead. But yeah, definitely where I'd want to go for this one. And then finally the movement spells. I really like both the movement spells that I've thought up with. The water ones, the water air ones, probably the simplest. You're just gonna shoot a torrent of water. So it's like that's all it is. You like pick a direction and you shoot a torrent of water. And then along with shooting the water, it's also gonna knock you back in the direction you fire. In fact, it might. Okay, caveat. I'll come back to this in a second. So immediate usage for shooting a beam of water. The water is not going to do any damage. It is just going to be a knockback tool. So in the similar way that the big piss off wave like knocks back all the enemies, this thing's going to like hit the first enemy it sees and it's going to push that enemy back along the jet. So you'll fire this and it'll go some distance. I don't know. Now, one thing I want to do is if you're airborne and you fire the jet, it will do what it would do normally, but it's also going to push you back in the direction that you fire it. So if I fire this to the left and I'm in midair, then it's going to push me this way if I do this. And so in that sense, you can also use it as a movement ability, and you can also use it to gain additional height if you fire it downwards. And then you'll go up. So that's kind of how I envision this being used. So you can kind of use it as an extra dash. And you can also use it as a way to gain additional height. Now, the last spell here is one that I'm calling, I think Blink. I think Blink's the one I like the most. And the way this one's going to work, this one kind of is not really inspired by anything, honestly. I don't know if there's other games that use this as a mechanic, but I really like it. Where's my wrong button? So let's say I'm standing here right above me and I have some baddie up here. Like, hold on. I have some baddie up here. It's some like bat. Again, I can't draw. Get over it. Look at how angry he is. Hold on. He's heckin' angry. Okay, so we have the player character and we have the bat. What Blink is gonna do is I'm here and I'm aiming in the direction of this closest enemy to me. When I blink, I'm going to zip through this enemy, like straight through him, to the same distance on the other side away from me, and I'm going to end up here. This is where I'm going to basically jump to. So it's going to be, I wouldn't say like instant cast, but pretty fast. It's going to zip you, it's going to basically teleport you from this position to this position. It's going to pass through the bat or whatever enemy is here. Hit them for a small amount of damage, probably not like a ton, but you'll do a little bit of damage to them, and then you'll end up in this new spot, right? And there's so many things I want to do with a spell like this. Like, I don't know what that is, Potato. I don't know what that is, but I'd believe you. I guess I could look it up. What is Grandma? Final Fantasy. Okay, it's some Final Fantasy thing that I don't know. because I don't play. But yeah, you're gonna blink through it. You're gonna blink through the enemy, and the reason that this gives me a lot of excitement because you can use it in like aerial segments to effectively fly if you give the player enough things to chain through. And there's lots of like really cool game design things I think you can do with that. And also it opens a lot of stuff like if you allow, like imagine you have bat enemies or, you know, Hollow Knight, you have Vengeflies flying around, right? And like there's loads of enemy pogos in Hollow Knight. I don't have an equivalent in this game. Like there's no way to like pogo off an enemy, but if you blink, you can blink through them. So having like aerial enemies that fly around and you can like lure them into a location and then you can blink through them to get like higher up. Oh, that was... Okay, I just missed your message from earlier. I see. You were talking about the Javelin spell. Yeah, there's like... I feel like there's loads of things that I could potentially do with this kind of effect. Because it lets you gain height, move... Like, just as a speedrunning ability, it sounds sick. If you've ever played Ori and the Blind Forest and you've done speedrunning for that game, Bash and Ori, I will swear by this. I think it's the best game mechanic that's ever been designed in a video game for speedrunning purposes. I mean, kind of just in general, I think it's goddamn incredible. But as a speedrunner, you have to like Bash is so sick. It is just hands down my favorite platforming mechanic in any platformer. And I've played a lot of them. I think Bash is so cool. And Blink is my attempt at making a mechanic that kind of feels like Bash, is different from Bash, but kind of is cool for the same reasons that Bash is cool. I don't know, like, Bash is so goddamn awesome. I kind of just, like, want to go... I should, like, go back and speedrun more RE1, honestly. I'll froth about this a bit more later. Froth. Okay. But yeah, that's Blink. So you're going to zip through and you're going to have, like, a chain of enemies and you're zip, 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 and you can, like, get over this, like, huge gap that you wouldn't be able to get over otherwise. Or you can, like, go, like, vertically. I don't know. There's like, plenty of things that you can do in a game design from a game design perspective to make that be cool. And that is all the spells, minus the spells that I haven't decided on. But yeah, basically, what you end up with at the end of this is you have 15 elemental spells, plus an additional 5, like, half-half ones, plus the pea shooter. So I'm making... my intention is to make a game that has 21 spells, and I've already coded, like, rough alpha designs for... How many did I end up doing? For 6 of them. Yeah, like, not bad, respectable. Would definitely use tweaking and whatnot, but, like, you know, 21's, like, not insane. Like, I can absolutely do that. In fact, this is the part of the game that is the most doable for me. It's like actually doing the programming portion. It's the art, as we can see. It's the art that I'm struggling with. 21 spells, and another interesting mechanic that I'll go over real quick is we're like, okay, Snowy, you've got your spells. What happens in every single game you play where you're given like 50 options? Think Hollow Knight Charms, think whatever RE2 used, think like, I don't know, in any game with like customizable options to like augment what you can do, you always end up just using like a tiny subset of them, right? Like that always ends up happening because you have access to all of them, so you only can use a subset. Oh, you only want to use a subset because they're better than everything else. Now, one thing that I'm doing in this game is that, say I'm the player character, or a mechanic that I want to put in. I'm this mage guy. I'll give myself a smiley face again. And I have this funny book, and it's my funny mage book. And I read it, and all my spells are in the mage book, right? Now, how this looks like in the game is that I'm a player, and in my hotbar at the top of the screen, I have a certain amount of spell slots. And I'm stealing this terminology from D&D, even though it's not really the same thing. For me, they are literally slots that you put spells in. So, like, let's say I have the fireball, and I have the dash, and I also have the chain lightning. Yeah, actually, yeah. Let's do the chain lightning, right? So I've got like a very offensive spell setup, right? And these are the spells. Each one of these spell slots is going to be assigned to a key. And then like default, whatever they're going to be, QWE, like, whatever. You can change them. Okay, not that relevant. They're assigned to keys, yeah? So when I press Q, I fire my fireball. When I press W, I use my dash. And when I press E, I shoot my little chain lightning bolt. Now, what happens if, I only have 3 spells equipped, but by this point in the game, I'm also going to have my tiny little pea shooter, and I probably also have my heal ability. And let's just say I have like all the primary stuff. So I also have the wall, right? I've got the wall as well. I'll use this one, the wall. So I also have these abilities, but they're not in my spell slots, so I can't use them. Now, what do I have to do? If I'm mid-combat and I'm getting my ass beat, right? Like I have these 3 spells in my slots, but I'm taking a crap ton of damage and I need a heal. I want to use the heal spell. I want to use this guy. I'll just circle him. But he's not my spell slot. So what I have to do is I have to open up my book, which is going to be represented by you literally opening your menu. So when you open your menu in this game, your play character is going to physically open their spell book, and then as you're like, you basically are able to swap out what spells are in your spell slots with the spells that you have over here, right? So I want to put the heal. So I want to like replace my fireball on Q with the healing spell for Q. And that is literally going to work as me pressing the menu button that opens up the spell menu, and then I click on the fireball, and then I swap it out for the water button. And then in game, what's going to happen is your play character is going to open their book, and they're going to go like quickly flipping through the pages to find the water spell, and then like, aha, I found the water spell. And then that's going to take the place of the fireball because they've remembered it, because they can see it. So like your mage is like, again, like kind of dumb at the start, like apprentice mage or whatever. And he can only remember so many spells at any one time. And in order to like re-remember the spell, you have to like go back to the page and read it again to like be refreshed on the spell. And like that is represented by the spell slots. As you go through the game, you like can unlock additional spell slots. And I probably would like max it out at 5. I guess start the game with like 2 or 3, and you can get like up to 5 by the end. And I think pushing past 5 is too many. Like I think 5 abilities at any one time is already a lot. I don't think I need to push past 5. In fact, I might cap it at 4. I might like start with 2 and go to 4 or something. Or maybe it even starts with 1. I don't know. I would mess around with it for sure. But I know for a fact I would not go beyond 5. I think it's unnecessary. But basically, at any one point, you can only have so many spells equipped. And if you want to swap to a new spell, you have to live mid-combat, flip through your book, and put another spell in the hotbar and replace an existing spell with it. And so in this case, yeah, I'm getting my ass beat. I swap out the fireball spell for the water spell without getting hit, hopefully. And then I can allow myself to heal. And then I can keep using the dash and the chain lightning spell because I still got them. But if I want to use the fireball spell again, I gotta go back into my book and find the fireball spell page and then put that back into my hotbar. So that is like a game mechanic that I think is pretty interesting and I think would play out pretty well. It's kind of like imagining, I guess a similar mechanic is like how charms work in Hollow Knight, right? Like you can only have a certain amount of charms equipped. In the case of the charms, it's resource based. Like every charm's assigned a certain amount of notches. So I wouldn't have a similar, I wouldn't have anything similar like that here. Like just every spell takes up one slot and that's it. And the other thing with charms is you can only swap your charms out on benches, right? It's like while you're sitting down in a safe space. Whereas in Mage, I want you to be able to change these spells on the fly and have it literally be an element of combat. Where like, I guess like, you know, a pretty basic example I can think of is like enemies later in the game may require you, in order to dodge like one of their big attacks, you might have to use the spell that like makes you invulnerable, like the dome spell, right? And you have to use that spell to make yourself invulnerable, or use another spell to like maybe you have to like raise the wall up, right, to block the huge laser beam. For the most part, you're probably not going to have the wall on your hotbar in combat because it's not that useful of a combat spell. But as soon as an enemy requires you to equip it, you have to mid-combat be like, oh shit, I'm using these spells, I have to quickly swap over to the wall spell so that I can block an attack. And like that attack would obviously be telegraphed and give you time to actually do this swapping. Or maybe you just get your ass beat by this attack so much, you just leave the wall, you just like stuff it, I'm just going to leave the wall spell on my hotbar the entire fight. Like that's another thing you can do as well, right? Like I want there to be options there and the player can just do it in whichever way they decide is best for them. And I feel like I had another thing I wanted to go over. But maybe that was it. Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, it kind of ties into what I was just talking about in regards to, like I was saying earlier, with these kinds of mechanics, it tends to be that, you know, you only use a small amount of them. I want every single spell in this game, bar maybe the pea shooter. The pea shooter I kind of don't really care that much about. If the player only uses it until they get the fireball or the chain lightning, then so be it, I don't care. But every other spell in the game, I want to at least be usable and have a time and a place where it is unquestionably the best spell to use in that moment. Doesn't mean you have to use it, but I want there to be times and places where every single spell is at its best and is the spell to use. So I would definitely design the game around that as well. And if I find that, like, okay, there's a spell where I'm feeling like I'm having to force in specific, like, encounters or scenarios to make it be useful, then it might just mean that it's not a good spell and it needs to be reworked or changed. That might just be a sign of that. So I feel like that's something I can look at and decide whether or not that is the case. But I think that's a lot of the basic mechanics in terms of like gameplay and combat that I kind of wanted to go over in this daily. As I've shown in like the last 2 days, and even today, I went through most of the spells that I've already set up. I've already made a handful of them, like maybe like a quarter of them. So as these dailies keep going, and I actually start doing some coding, we're probably going to look to implement some of the ones that I was talking about earlier that aren't in the game yet. So I don't know which one I'm that keen to do next. I think the lightning bolt would be pretty easy because it would just kind of like follow the same pattern as the wall, except instead of spawning a wall, it's gonna spawn a giant ass lightning bolt. Making that look good right now would be pretty difficult, but yeah, it's definitely something that I could do. I don't know what my other candidates are at the moment. I kind of don't want to do the water ones right now because I'm not that set on them. Like, it's the other thing, right? You kind of don't want to like write and build this entire like gameplay mechanic, like one of these spells, and then later on quickly decide like, actually this isn't that. I want to swap it for something else, right? Like kind of a waste. I have no doubt that I will end up changing some of them. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think I want to start by programming the ones that I'm very confident in and that I'm most likely to keep around. And the others probably need more workshopping and thought, which I might even spend like entire dailies just going over a specific spell. It's like brainstorm ideas for what the spell could be, what it could do, and like how feasible it will be to actually make. Because obviously I have limits. I'm not like some incredible game developer. I've got like a uni course worth of experience, and other than that, I do traditional software dev. So, yeah, I have limits for what I think I can accomplish in my current state. But you know, we'll work on. I mean, I'll definitely improve and get better at some of that. So we start with the easy ones, which is kind of what I've already shown you, right? Pea shooter, very easy. We can do that. The chain lightning, yeah, some of those spells I put a lot of work into because they're not super simple, but yes. Anyway, I think I'm good to call the daily here. I actually ended up going for like 2 hours, although like the first half hour was tons of technical difficulties. But thinking about what I want to do tomorrow, do I want to do programming? Maybe. Maybe we'll actually start programming a new spell. I think that'd be cool. I might fix up this error I'm getting. I'm still getting some null references that I'll probably resolve. But we might actually start on a new spell tomorrow. Maybe. Perhaps. Anyway, I will decide later, but for now, I will hop off. So thanks everyone who stopped by for tuning in. We'll likely be on tomorrow around the same time. So catch me then if you want. And have a good one. See you around.